Hello. This is a video within a group of videos that introduce the L-Range modeling family. Within all of these videos, I'll often include the Windows command prompt, and I'll be using commands to move about the directory structure and such, and to manipulate files. Rather than talking of those commands in other videos, I thought I would bring them together into one video and introduce the Windows command prompt if you're not familiar with it. Couple of things. First off, make clear that you don't need to use the Windows command prompt if you're not comfortable with it, don't wish to learn how to use it. You can use Windows Explorer, do the kinds of normal file management that you would do, and the L-Range modeling family will work as normal. Also, there is a similar tool in Macintosh systems, the terminal or the like, but I don't use those systems and so can't introduce them. But I use the Windows command prompt to speed my work. I can move around more quickly. I can manipulate files more efficiently, script different steps and such. And so that's why I use it. To access the Windows command prompt, it's known as CMD in Windows systems. And so if you go to the Start menu, the little white box at the corner of your screen, and type CMD and return, it will bring up a Windows command prompt. If that's not visible for whatever reason, you can press the Windows key and then R for run, then type CMD, return, and again, it will bring up a Windows command prompt. When you start a command prompt in Windows, it will look something like this. It defaults to a users folder. So you see that I'm user R Boone on this machine. And so you see C, the drive reference, and then the folder users, and the folder R Boone is where it defaults. That's the pathway given. Now, we have different drives on different machines, of course. Often we have multiple drives on a given computer. So we could have the C drive, the D drive, F drive, whatever the case. These could be separate hard drives or SSDs, or they could be partitions. But basically, they allow us to separate information out into large groups. Here, the information I'm talking about is on the F drive. And so to change from the C drive to the F drive, it's just a matter of typing the letter followed by a colon. And so I'm now on the F drive, and whatever command I give will be relevant to the F drive. I can then change directories. Again, directory and folders, they're the same term, they're the same thing, but directory is an older phrase. I use it here though because it's part of what comprises the commands in a Windows command prompt. It's an older tool. And so for example, here to change directories, I use CD. So CD is change directories. CD L-Range, the capitalization doesn't matter in a Windows system in this fashion, so I change into the L-Range folder. Another command available, used all the time, is directory, dir. That provides a directory listing. If I do dir, you see the contents of the L-Range folder. There's an export tool, L-Export. There's a source folder that contains the actual code that makes L-Range work. There's a bin folder that contains the executable file. And then there's the L-Range folder itself that contains the spatial data and the parameters that make the program run. So I can change again. CD is change directory. I can also include multiple directories within one request. So I can change into that second L-Range layer that you see on the screen. And I happen to know that it contains a parms file. So I can do parms folder rather to change into the parms folder within that folder. So now I'm bumping down 2 steps, 2 folders down. And that leaves me on the third layer of this drive. I'm within the L-Range folder. Within that is another L-Range folder. Within that is the parms folder. I can do a dir to get the contents of the folder, and these will be described in far more detail in other videos, But here you can see that there's a file relevant to CO2 concentration, another for fertilization, another for fire. There are a couple of legend folders, one I just created to demonstrate a tool. There's the landscape units file, which is the main tool to inform L-Range about the parameters used to grow vegetation. There's the output list, be able to turn on and off different outputs you might want. And then there's the SimParm file that contains the parameters that drive the simulation itself. You'll see as well that there are two additional folders in this folder. One is called dot or period. And so you see the first entry is dir period, and another is double period or double dot. These are shorthand, and so they are pointers that we can use to move about a system. I don't use the dot too often, but it refers to the folder you're standing in, the folder you're in at the moment. And so it's referring to L-Range parms. It's the current folder. I more often use the double dot, which is referring to the parent folder, the one above the folder I'm in. So if I do cd ... I'm asking the machine to back up one layer, and it will back into the L-Range folder. Again, cd ... backs me up one more to the L-Range outer folder. And again, you get the same list that you saw earlier. Let me return to the parms folder. We also have a backslash. The backslash by itself is another shorthand that means go all the way back to the root of the drive. So if I do cd backslash, it's going, no matter where I am, it's going to return to the root of the drive. So those are the three special references. We've got dot, not used very often in some circumstances. There's double dot that I use frequently, and then backslash that I use frequently as well. Let me go back to where we were and continue. We can have copy. Copy is much like it sounds. It's going to copy a file. So let's make a third. Again, you'll see the reason for this Goji 2 reference. This is a legend that's used in informing L-Range what land cover types to simulate. I could create a third copy using the copy command. And so now we have 3. As you might guess then, I can delete that copy. I don't need that copy, so I can use del to delete that file. This should be done with caution. There's no recycling bin in the Windows commands, so if you delete it, it's likely gone. You could certainly get them back, but it requires more steps than it would in the normal Windows environment. So again, Goji 3 is gone now, so that's the delete file command. We have the command find string. This is helpful. It's similar to grep in Unix if you're familiar with that. But this is a way to find the contents of files. So to search the contents of files and have them listed for you. So I happen to know there's a parameter of interest, a couple actually, that are for precipitation. They're abbreviated PRCP, at least part of the variable name is. And so I can search for that, PRCP, within the landscape units file. And it will print out the lines that contain that string, so it finds the string of interest. I can also give wildcards with that file, with that command rather, and can with many of these commands. Here we can do find string PRCP ***. That means all the files. And those wildcards then will cause it to print out not only the contents that match the string of interest, but the name of the file where those contents were found. We can create and remove directories. Not too likely in the parameter file, for example, but when doing scenarios, we often are creating and removing folders that store scenario results. So we'd create a folder, copy results to that folder, and keep track of simulation pathways that way. So here we can do make directory. Let's call a directory or a folder tools, and now I have a directory called tools. But I don't want that, so I can use remove directory tools and it will go away. Rename is much like it sounds. If I do rename go G2 legend to go G2.txt, it will rename the file. And so now I have just a single legend file. I have a text file. FC is file compare. It's very helpful to know the changes within a folder, within a file. So I can compare two files. I can compare the goji.legend file and the goji2.txt file, and it will compare them line by line. And if there are differences, it will provide the line where the difference was found, the previous line, and the following line. So here you see in the Goji legend file, it speaks of sparse veg and stops there. In the Goji 2 text file, it speaks of sparse vegetation. The name is spelled out. And it's giving us that line as a change, the previous line, and the following line. And so we can compare and contrast files and know what changes have been made. The last command I'll mention is help. And so this is a file that will help on any command. There are many commands in the Windows command prompt. I've addressed just a few of them here, but you can do help start, for example, which I use in my work, and it will give me a long description of how to use the the command, what's it for, limitations, give examples, and of course there are multiple resources, countless resources on the web to reference as well if you'd like to learn more about the command prompt in Windows.